Hello and welcome to Hard Copy from our channel's television studios in Abuja. I'm Kayla Megba. Just last week, we were looking at politics getting in the way of governance, and it was posited on this program that Nigeria's elite must commit class suicide. And this mass class suicide should be led by the president himself. My guest tonight, who many say is fascinated with revolution, also posits that Nigeria is suffering from elite failure. And tonight we find out what that means. There isn't a TV show long enough to chronicle all the issues of governance that have been raised by my guest in the course of his career as a professor of political economy and a management expert, a fellow of the Institute of Management Consultants of Nigeria, and a former presidential candidate. He's the founder of Center for Value in Leadership and a co-founder of a political party, the African Democratic Congress, which is in the news right now. He was even his presidential candidate in 2007. He's a professor at the Lagos Business School and was an advisor to the late President Shehu Shagari. What does he mean by a revolution? What's all the hula about a shadow government? Why doesn't he want a political appointment? What ministerial appointment did he reject? How has the Senate upset him again? What are his thoughts on the $29 billion borrowing plan? What's his preferred age for a president? Why should the government scrap the banding system in our electricity sector? And is our government fixated on revenue generation? Joining us tonight on Hard Copy is Professor Pat Utomi. Professor Pat Utomi, welcome to Hard Copy.
Thank you. I'm glad to be able to join you.
I want to take you on something that you said recently. You said Nigeria is suffering from a failure of the elite. What does that mean?
Elite, people of privilege, have a duty to set the tone of how that society travels to a preferred destination. Some elite have done a pretty decent job of it. Others have been disastrous at that. In fact, I just received a text message from a friend of mine who's a Nobel Prize winning economist who likes to talk about this point, that many countries don't go where they should be going because their elite don't do what they should do.
What are they supposed to do?
Look, they are supposed to think. Right now, they're not thinking. That's the truth about the Nigerian elite. It's not thinking. It's letting itself get carried away by all kinds of petty emotions, which people who are scrambling to find power usually throw up. You know, there's a center at Harvard now, it's called the Center for Moral Cognition. It's led by a professor called Joshua Green. And what Joshua Green and his team are trying to do is to take neuroscience, psychology, and philosophy and try and explain why people behave in the way they behave that make emotion trump rational thinking,
thought, yeah.
reason. And, and you know, well, if I might go back to him, Jürgen Habermas, who is called the philosopher of the public sphere, his definition of modernity and democracy is that nexus where rational public conversation takes place, and then it moves people forward. National elites are not in rational conversation. They're in all kinds of cheap stuff, like what village do you come from? What religion do you, ask? Such nonsense that never gets anybody anywhere, really. And that's what's kept Nigeria down.
Are you considered part of Nigeria's elite?
I am, yes, clearly.
So,
but you got to have people who are outliers.
Yes. What example, Prof, can other elites take from yourself? Because it does seem like you may be towing the direction that you wish other elites, such as yourself, would tow.
Well, first of all, put your country first, not yourself. You know, the selfishness, the weakness in the Nigerian elite is this self-serving nature, me, myself, and I. And when they see you pull back from, short-term thinking about self, and I can give an example. I even wrote a book around it. A friend of mine, Ben Murray Bruce, well-known former senator and all of that, came to visit me many years ago, I think 2009. And Ben said to me, "Boy, why do you hate money?" I said, me, hate money, professor of entrepreneurship. How can I hate money? He said, no, everybody, says it about you. Look at all the people you are helping. They're all tycoons, and you just live so modestly. I said, maybe what gives me satisfaction is not the kind of cars they drive. In fact, I look at the cars they drive and feel contemptuous because I know that they could have invested those things differently if they really earned it. The truth is, most of them didn't earn it. Nothing against driving fancy cars. As a capitalist, you invest, you make money, you're entitled to doing whatever you want, with the gains. But if you think that society requires better thinking for everybody, because if you keep taking whatever you make to yourself, one day you will be a lunch for somebody who cannot find something to eat. The worst part is their cowardice. They can't speak truth to power. They can't speak truth to reality. They may not give me contracts if I go tomorrow. In fact, I good friends of mine who, when they see me, they go gaga, gaga. They see me in public, they look right, look left. Is there any person around looking out if I can shake his hands? Those kinds of silliness, is what Nigerian elite has really come to be known for. And that's why our country is not making progress.
There's an article about you in the Nation newspaper that says you're fascinated with revolution. Are they correct? And if you are, when you say revolution, what do you mean?
Revolution simply means change in a more rapid way than the usual evolution of things. Change will take place. That's one thing that's certain about life. It will take place. Now, those who do not become intentional about making that change happen and happen rapidly can drop away from how quickly it's changing for others. And so we will have a problem with living with others who have moved more quickly. Now, I'll give you a good example. If you look at our peers from the 50s, and even those that we did a lot better than, and look at where they are today. In 1956, when self-government began to come to Nigeria, there was no industrialization in Nigeria. And the new leaders of Nigeria realized that with our population, industrialization was key to progress. And they decided they were going to do something about it. Between 57, when self-government had fully arrived, and 1960 at independence, manufacturing had gone from next to zero of GDP to 20% of GDP. Now that's revolutionary change. If they said, oh, well, let's just continue to do things and God will help us, and by now, you will know how far behind we could have gotten compared to the rest. I mean, just look at how things changed after the so-called dangerous alchemy of soldiers and oil coming together, and how we dropped out of being serious manufacturers and what that has done to our economy. You will see the difference. This is why, 500 years ago, Niccolo Machiavelli argued in The Prince that nothing is more difficult to bring about than a new order of things, because those who profit from the old order will do everything to prevent the new order from coming about. But those who profit from new order, and these are the people I face, do not do enough to make it happen, because man is incredulous in his nature, not wanting to try new things until he has witnessed the experience of it. A great deal of the Nigerian elite are people who are waiting to see the thing happen so they can then jump on the bandwagon. They don't realize that they have to do something for that great escape from misery to take place. They have to sacrifice for it to happen. They just want to take what they can grab, live in their comfort zones, and call people like Utomi names. But, that's okay, so long as society eventually gets where it must go.
So it's a thought revolution, the industrial in nature, not some Guy Fawkes
that's the starting point.
Not some Guy Fawkes eat the rich type of revolution where people get violent and whatnot.
But let me tell you, if you don't do what you need to do, it will end up there. It's inevitable. If you don't do what you need to do, you will end up there. And that's why I think people need to be more thoughtful. You can't sustain this situation. Look, I give a simple example. Go to Cairo in Egypt. See the remarkable infrastructure revolution that's taking place. Power, they have twice as much power as they need. And their strategy is to keep having a buffer, a huge buffer between what they need and what they are generating and distributing. New Cairo is going up, looking like a new Dubai coming up. But look around and see what their elites drive. They're in 504, Peugeot 504s. They're in Toyota Corollas. Abuja, you all are driving big SUVs. Money going out of the country for what we don't produce. I don't have anything against SUVs. If you earn it, please buy your SUV. If you are using public money, please don't use it to buy a Land Cruiser. Go around as permanent secretary in a Toyota Corolla, please. It is public resource. If you are president, please don't buy a new presidential jet. The South African president used to travel around Africa in business class. I have sat on this in the same place, in the same class, in the same aircraft with this was his name, Thabo Mbeki, when he was president of South Africa. He was flying to Mozambique or somewhere. We got in the same flight. You know, when we landed, we went to somewhere. They brought out red carpet. He came down. He went off, went to the other place, and we all got out. Why must we have a presidential fleet that is bigger than most Nigerian airlines? But they think it is befitting when it's public resources of people who can eat 1 square meal a day. That's unjust. That's unfair thinking. Until we can get to thinking differently.
Yes. I want to be able to get your thoughts on the example that this is giving to Nigeria's young people. Because while we're here, me and you, talking about class suicide and, you know, the elites being more responsible and let us be a bit more demure in our expression of wealth, we have a younger generation that are interested only in flashing as much wealth as possible. It's a mantra almost in the minds of young people. I will never be poor. You know, they're doing everything in their power to make sure that poverty doesn't come near them. And in many cases, we find many of them going into nefarious activities to fund that lifestyle and show off that lifestyle on social media. Is it too late? Can this be reined in? How do we talk to young people about the values of things like piety and being demure and respecting people's resources and you know, and things like that? Is it possible for this overhaul to happen with our young people who are watching the elite live lavishly?
Precisely. The elite are setting the bad example, so they are learning from them. If those people just do the right thing, the examples, you know, it's amazing about, I mean, once upon a time I did write on why nations are poor. I'm actually writing another book right now on why African countries are still poor. And in that I try to describe how leadership comes to matter. What really sets the tone of human progress are essentially institutions and values, culture. But who sets the tone of culture? The elite, the leaders. Their behavior sets the tone of culture, and culture drives progress. If they don't and continue like this, yes, the bad example to young people that they are setting, but even worse, the consequences. There's nothing that happens without consequence. Eventually there's consequence. And they may not like it. They may not even be around when it happens. But history may treat them with such contempt. It would have been better for them that they didn't hold the positions they held.
We're going to short break, Prof. And when we come back, we'll be talking about you. And of course, looking at a lot of the political situations going on in the country. So please, stay with us on Hard Copy. We'll be right back. Welcome back to Hard Copy here on Channels Television. If you just tuned in, we've been speaking with Professor Pat Utomi. We're having a State of the Nation conversation and taking a look at Nigeria's elite and their failure in setting the example that will change the future of our country. Thank you so much, Prof, for being with us on the program.
Pleasure.
Let's talk about your relationship with the ADC. You used to be the presidential candidate of that political party in 2007. What's your relationship with the African Democratic Congress right now?
A very good one. I have never left being one of those who dreamt of what the future should look like through the ADC. What happened after we ran in 2007? A lot of people came to me and said, you see, you people, you Ganify, you people, you just go to one small corner and you make noise, this is mainstream. I said, look, all these people in mainstream are my friends. I just don't like what they're doing. Hey, no, it's because you can't. So I said, okay. So ADC said there, let me go and talk to these mainstream people. I talked to them, I worked with them, and I saw them make a mess of the country before my very eyes. I came to a point where I began to then speak to those leading in the ADC. I stayed in touch with ADC all these years that I've been looking at other models of what can make Nigeria work. And so when across the spectrum, people began to worry about where Nigeria had managed to reach, and we're looking at how do we reconstruct? How do we get these people, yes, who are there, who've been there, who I challenged when we were all trying to do mainstream, and they have come to see that, wait a minute, where we've gone is not where we should go. And they're willing to come together to do something. I said to them, where to go is ADC. Because I was at the meetings with these people. And I talked to the ADC people, they said, we're willing to welcome this happening on the ADC platform. And I'm glad that is developing. And what I want to say to people, because I've heard some people say, these people, you know, these, they were this, they were that, they were, yeah, sure. One of the great stories, I don't know if we've told those stories enough in our country, is how people can do a mea culpa and come to say, it's not about us who want to show the way. As part of remorse for what we have seen done or may have been part of doing, that will make our country make progress. There must come a new group of 50-something-year-olds, 60-something-year-olds who have shown that they can lead, but the nature of our system has not given them the chance to lead. And then another layer of 25 to 35-year-olds, smart people. I mean, I was 27 when I did this stuff. They are smarter than I was at 27. So a group of them should come through. And then these people all come together, one supporting the other, on this ADC platform, build a political party. Nigeria does not have a political party. That's what I've argued for years. You just have people running around trying to grab power through some machine. And that's not a political party. With ideas, with values that everybody accepts, and then collective leadership. Biggest disaster Nigeria has had is that the last couple of years, we've trusted in one man. Buhari, he will fix this. No. It must be collective leadership. The way that when I was a young man entering this place, President Shagari would have Chief Akinloye here, Dr. Alex Ekweme, everybody, they'll sit down every Sunday evening. And this is the direction Nigeria is going. Yeah, we agree. That's the way it must be. There's no Buhari or a Tinubu trying to tell us what we should do. Because none of them is smart enough to know what to do. Collectively, we can agree where our country is going.
So you think the ADC stands a chance against the APC in 2027?
There won't even be a competition if they work this thing through well. There won't be.
What kind?
And I can tell you, I know all the.
What could ruin their chances in your view, apart from the layering that you mentioned, the age groups and whatnot, and the mindsets of the peoples that are in these layers? What other things could stop the ADC from being able to clench power from the APC in 2027?
Again, you know, there are these games that Nigerian politics have degenerated to, destabilizing other parties. Instead of thinking ideas, policy, what are we discussing? How can you get one idiot in that party to cause confusion there? How can you get that moron, give him a couple of plots of land, 1 billion naira, and he messes away? if you take those away, and the citizens are the ones who must liberate the country from the shenanigans of these politicians. Once the citizens understand, properly educated, and they say, we won't stand for this. We want ideas about how to make this great escape from misery that this country currently is.
You mentioned recently about this $29 billion borrowing plan, and you've been criticizing it for a few days now. Talk to us about that and why this is such a bad idea for you.
You know, I give the example of one good thing that President Obasanjo did as a military head of state, low profile. While he was doing that, he fell into one bad trap. You know, after the Arab-Israeli quadrupled, suddenly countries like Nigeria had so much money coming into their pockets, and they had to bank them somewhere. So most of these monies went from countries like Nigeria, Libya, and co into Western banks, Wall Street banks. With all these dollars, petrodollars as they were called, in their vaults, they needed to recycle these monies. So they started a new song. You know, countries like Nigeria are grossly under-borrowed and blah, 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 blah. We had a finance minister, General James Ululeye, and he was shipped off to go and look for what they call jumbo loans. I remember a cartoon. I had left the country at that time, but I remember in Sunday Times seeing one cartoon of James Ululeye carrying these big bags of dollars, jumbo loans. And then we got those loans. A few years later, we had fallen into what she repair in her book, The Debt Trap, calls exactly that, the debt trap. Nigeria was in a mess, complete mess. By 1982, we had 2 weeks, we couldn't sell any oil. We had bills all over the place. Those same Western banks began to severe lines of credit to Nigerian banks. Nigeria had fallen into a debt trap. That's the mess they're trying to get us into again. Anybody who does not learn from his history is not normal. And we will not allow politicians to make us abnormal people because we are normal.
Such a strange situation. You've been also speaking about the banding system in our electricity sector. You want it scrapped. Now, I do have to tell you, even though you've been talking about this for quite a while, there are people from the Band A who are enjoying a lot of electricity, even though they're paying for it through their noses. And as you know, with the Nigerian people, if I am paying, if you're supplying it, I will pay. Let the problem be that I can't afford it, not that I pay for it and I don't get it.
Well, I live in Band A and I don't get it. In Ikoyi, in Lagos, I don't get it, in spite of how much it is. I don't get enough of it at least. On top of it, I have solar, I have Urishi on top of everything. But that's even beyond the point. The problem I have with the power sector in Nigeria, they've not thought supply side. How much has supply distribution gone up in the last 20 years with the billions that have gone into it? So the small that's available, you want a few to get most of it. And then the others live in hell. If you try very hard, you may move to purgatory. This offends decency. No country should function with those kinds of thinking.
You talked recently about our government being obsessed with revenue generation and not with actual development. Let's talk a bit about that. Because one would think that revenue generation is the first step towards actual development. So if they're ramping, if we're mopping up money, give it some time. We will use it for the people themselves.
We need revenues. The power of collecting revenues is that it makes the people hold those who collect that revenue accountable to their needs, their desires. Tell me how you can hold these people accountable in our current structure. Go to National Assembly. Let me get started on National Assembly again, They are supposed to help you do that as your agent. The so-called agency function. They are your agents to hold executive accountable. You see how all of them have joined one party. You see how every day they cheerlead the executive branch. Stop being a legislature. Long time ago, we don't have a legislature right now in Nigeria. The political class have abandoned the essence of democracy. So who is going to hold them accountable for that revenue that they're collecting? So that person doesn't exist.
Before we wrap up, I want to get your update on the DSS were very upset with you not too long ago because allegedly you said that you were going to run a shadow government. Please, how did this situation end? Because it kind of fizzled out. Was there some kind of arrangement or agreement? How did this end?
No arrangement. It was still in court. No, they said they are very gentle these days. They go to court, which is good.
Okay.
And I said this is a fantastic thing for the country, because if anybody knows anything about my academic history, it's about institutions and economic performance. That's the territory in which my academic work has been done.
Who's in
How
court?
do institutions
Did
evolve?
Did you sue the DSS or the DSS sued you?
No, the DSS sued me, and I sued the presidency. So we're all in court. So we're still dealing with the DSS form first. And I think that the process of the courts resolving it, no matter what some people say about the court, they're still where we all end up in. And decisions they make become the base for institution building that determine the future of our country.
There's never enough time to talk with you, unfortunately.
But you know, if they put me in prison, I'm sure people like you who live in Abuja, maybe they'll put me in Guje.
Okay.
You can be bringing me food.
I'll bring food. I'll be there. We'll cover it. We'll cover it. Well, good luck with all of that. And I want to thank you very much, Professor Pat Utomi, for being with us tonight on Hard Copy. And we'll talk to you soon, hopefully.
Thank you so very much.
That's Hard Copy this week. I'm Kayla Magwa. Good night.